Hello, just Jean talking, and I am Jean, registered nurse and maternal child health and family planning nurse practitioner. And my job here is to talk to you about issues relative to health and hygiene and to break it down to simple terms so that everybody can understand. So before we start, I would appreciate it if you guys would subscribe, if you would like, and keep in mind that I would like you to leave some comments. So the topic today is one that has affected many people, and that's miscarriage. So what is miscarriage? Miscarriage means simply that a pregnancy does not go to term. The pregnancy is terminated for some reason prior to 20 weeks pregnancy. That's about 5 months. And that 5-month time is important to know because that is the period of viability. That means that if that child were born at 20 weeks or 5 months, there's a possible chance that that child could live outside the womb. So that means the area of viability means 20 weeks that the child could possibly live outside of the womb. Bam, that's it. So what are some of the possible reasons for a miscarriage? Well, I told you before about how the sperm travels up through the vagina, up through the opening of the cervix, and out to the fallopian tubes. And in the fallopian tube, the sperm meets with the egg that has been ejected from the ovary. So they meet and they start to actually divide and grow right there in the fallopian tube. At a certain point, the embryo, as it's called, travels back down the fallopian tube, back into the uterus, where it implants into the side of the uterus. Now the uterus has prepared itself to receive this embryo. I told you the body is a fine-tuned machine and it likes things to go just the way it is supposed to go. So there are hormones that the female has that are prevalent and available to support this transaction that's taking place. This ovum and sperm that's in the fallopian tube, traveling back down, implanting, all that is controlled and kind of operated by these hormones. So sometimes there could be a hormone imbalance, meaning that there's not quite enough of the estrogen, the progesterone, the hormones that support the pregnancy. There's not enough, there's an imbalance. So sometimes the implantation does not take place as firmly or the way the body would want it to. Could be a little bit of problem with the implantation. So as this fetus begins to grow, and if there's a problem with the implantation, there's a possibility that this fetus, that this embryo at this point could be lost because there's not enough to support it. Now at the point where the implantation takes place, that's called the placenta. The placenta is the organ that supports the embryo and later on the fetus. The embryo is connected by an umbilical cord to the embryo, and through the placenta, all the nourishment, the oxygen, everything that this fetus is going to, I keep interchanging the words. In the beginning, it's called an embryo. Once the embryo grows and grows and divides and become a bigger person, then it is a fetus. So, straighten me out, guys. So, the embryo needs nourishment, it needs oxygen, food, everything. And in exchange, it also needs to get rid of waste products. So those things travel back through the placenta, and that's how the embryo gets rid of waste materials. So again, if there's a problem with that placenta, if there's an issue, then it's not going to be strong enough, we can say, to support this embryo or fetus all the way through to the time of birth. So, what are some other things that could go wrong? I remember I told you that half of the hereditary aspects come from the male, half from the female. So, if there's some sort of chromosome imbalance, that could be an issue. And many times, if there's a chromosomal imbalance, the body, in its infinite wisdom, determines this is not going to be a good outcome, and they don't allow that pregnancy to go to term. So that could be another reason. Another thing could be, I said that the hormones could be imbalanced, not enough hormones, an imbalance, whatever. We could also have maternal health issues. Maternal means mother. So, mother could have some issues. She could have some sort of disease process that would cause her to not be quite strong enough to carry this pregnancy. She could have issues with a lot of stress. She could have issues with a bunch of tobacco smoking. She could be very obese. Issue with drugs, alcohol. All of these things come into play. And as this embryo is trying to implant itself and get going and get off to a healthy start, if there are issues with the maternal mom herself, that could set this pregnancy up to terminate. There could be infections that cause the embryo to terminate before term. Just a lot of issues. About 30% of pregnancies end in miscarriages. And a lot of times the mom doesn't even know that she's pregnant. She could be pregnant early and implantation didn't take place, whatever didn't take place, and she could have a miscarriage and just kind of think that it's her normal period and not even be concerned with it. About age 35, women tend to have more issues with miscarriage. For some reason, they consider that age 35 as maternal, over maturity. So mom has issues that she did not have as a younger woman. And by age 35, things are starting to happen where possibly the eggs are not quite as vibrant as they used to be. There may not be as many. She may not be ovulating or putting out an egg every month. So there are many issues that could happen at age 35 that could cause the mom to be set up to be more prone to a miscarriage. But now, when the embryo implants at the uterus, it has a placenta. The placenta is that organ that's going to be with that child from implantation all the way to birth. So if it's not a good placenta for some reason, there you go, we got a problem. Many times the woman has an issue with her cervix. The cervix is the head of the womb. It's, at the top of the vagina. It's a round, snug, fitting situation where nothing can actually go through there so readily because it stays nice and tight and firm and thick until it's time for the baby to be born. Now, every now and then, this cervix is not as thick and strong and tight as it should be. Once the woman is pregnant and pregnancy goes 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks, instead of this cervix remaining strong and firm and tight the way it should, it tends to start to kind of open up and relax and become thinner than it ordinarily would be. Those things are not supposed to happen until it's time for the baby to be born. But if it happens early, say 11, 12 weeks, the cervix starts to loosen up and thin itself out and spread itself out. That fetus can pass through that cervix because there's nothing tight holding it up in there. That is called an incompetent cervix. Incompetent meaning it's not capable of holding that fetus in place. So there are things that they can do to correct that. They can take a stitch and go around that cervix, and stitch it around. Pull those strings tight like that. Think about the top of a purse string, a purse that you can tighten up like that. You can do the cervix the same way. So they put that string around the cervix, pull it nice and tight, and keep it tight so that that fetus cannot pass down. It stays where it's supposed to be and develops until maturity, 9 months. Okay? So, once a woman has had several pregnancies and they notice that at around 12 weeks she seems to keep having a miscarriage, well, that could be the point where that fetus has gotten heavy enough to cause this action on the cervix. The cervix starts to loosen up. So they can say, okay, well, this is happening, looks like it's happening every time at about 10, 12 weeks. 10, 12 weeks, 3 months. So they can say, okay, there must be an incompetent cervix. So the physician can go in and do that purse string. Advise the mom to kind of take it easy. You don't need to be as active as ordinarily you would be. You might not want to do all those strenuous exercises that you ordinarily might do. Kind of take it easy. And so she goes ahead and she carries that pregnancy to term. Now at about 8 months, the doctor goes in and he cuts that string, cuts that purse string, because now he doesn't have a problem with the cervix loosening up and thinning out and becoming wider, because that's the normal process that happens at about 8, 9 months. But we just don't want it to happen at 3 months. So that is an incompetent cervix, and those fetuses that come out due to that incompetent cervix prior to 20 weeks, that is a miscarriage. So, what else? Another reason that I want to talk about miscarriage is because many women get very, very emotionally attached to their pregnancy, and when they have a miscarriage at 10, 11, 12 weeks, it causes a lot of distress to them. People around them don't seem to understand how emotionally invested this person is in this pregnancy. So they'll say things like, oh, well, you was just 2.5 months. You was just 3 months. You can always get pregnant again. You can try again. And a lot of times the father is also invested in the pregnancy. And they kind of go through something behind a miscarriage. It's not just like something that just happens and they just get up and go the next day and everything is fine. It's not like that. It's something that they kind of have to be counseled about. They need to seek therapy sometimes. And they need the people around them to be more understanding of what they're going through. So the physical aspect of the miscarriage is that what happens is when the fetus comes out, or the embryo, depending upon what stage we're in, there is a lot of excess bleeding, there's cramping, sometimes headachy, lots of different symptoms occur that lets this woman know something is wrong. Normally, it takes place over a period of maybe days. It doesn't just happen like, everything's gone at once, although it could. So it's a process of going through a miscarriage. So I just want everybody to be aware that this can be a traumatic experience for a woman and for a man. So just kind of be thinking, when you know someone had a miscarriage, kind of be a little bit more sympathetic, empathetic, etc. Now, some people get stillbirth mixed up with miscarriage. Now, stillborn, this fetus has developed past 20 weeks. It's growing, everything seems to be going well, the implantation was good, all that seemed to have been okay. But in maybe 6-7 months, all of a sudden that she's going to the doctor and he's listening to hear the heartbeat and all that sort of stuff and the movements that the woman feels, all of a sudden that's gone. So what has happened in many cases is that child has died in utero, in the uterus. The child has died, and the child is born dead, a stillbirth. So the difference between the two is that the stillborn is more mature, more developed, past the age of viability, and dies in utero and is born stillborn. And the miscarriage happens early on in pregnancy, prior to 20 weeks, prior to the age of viability. Etiology unknown. Etiology means cause. No one can specifically say why a person had a miscarriage or why a person had a stillbirth. It's not something that they could be blamed for or that they did something specific. In many cases, the cause can be found out, but in many cases, it can't be. So, don't be hard on yourself, ladies. If you have had a miscarriage, guys, if you've gone through that with your lady, don't feel that you're to blame. That's my 2 cents for today. I'd appreciate if you guys would subscribe, like, share, comment, help a sister out. Thanks.